Hello YouTube. Bane666 here. Well, you guys demanded a part 5, so here it is. Let's get stuck into it. Let's start with a wonderful article by the Daily Mail. It's called Inside the World of the Woman Haters, the Terrifyingly Misogynistic Websites That Fuel the Rage of the Virgin Killer, and How Their Poison's Spreading to Britain. Vile comments on men's rights forums include women lust for rapists. Distorted websites used by Elliot Rodger, 22, before shooting rampage. Young men consider themselves entitled to sex with whoever they choose. Well, I am sure this is going to be totally unbiased. Let's get stuck into it. They're juvenile, short-sighted and generally retarded. Females are literally subhuman. I don't know if you notice it too, but the more you insult downgrade a woman, the more she likes you. All women actually want is you to fuck the shit out of them. Women have always felt lust for rapists. It's a fact that is easy to back up. Is it possible to rape a girl in a respectful way? These are just some of the shockingly vile statements I've seen online this week, as I delved into the world of so-called men's rights forums, where young male users come from Britain, America and across the world. Do you notice she doesn't give us the name of the website or forum? We are meant to just take her word that 1. These things were said in the first place. 2. They were said on a men's rights website. 3. They were said by men's rights activists and not trolls or non-MRAs. By not even giving us so much as the name of the website, the author prevents us from verifying any of these things, and I believe this was deliberate. Giving citations is important, because some people purposely mislead, others misquote, or get facts wrong. We should be able to go look for ourselves, especially in this day and age where information is just a click away. For example, let's say I presented as a post-feminist quote. The male is completely egocentric, trapped inside himself, incapable of empathizing or identifying with others, or love, friendship, affection of tenderness. He is a completely isolated unit, incapable of rapport with anyone. His responses are entirely visceral, not cerebral. His intelligence is a mere tool in the services of his drives and needs. He is incapable of mental passion, mental interaction. He can't relate to anything other than his own physical sensations. He is a half-dead, unresponsive lump, incapable of giving or receiving pleasure or happiness. Consequently, he is at best an utter bore, an inoffensive blob, since only those capable of absorption in others can be charming. He is trapped in a twilight zone halfway between humans and apes, and is far worse off than the apes because, unlike the apes, he is capable of a large array of negative feelings: hate, jealousy, contempt, disgust, guilt, shame, doubt, and moreover, he is aware of what he is and what he isn't. Nasty stuff, right? Doesn't paint a very good picture of the feminist view of males. But how do you know I didn't just make it up? How do you know I didn't misquote it? How do you know it's from a feminist? In other words, what's its context? This is why citations are important. Many of you probably know the quote I presented. It is in fact a real quote, by Valerie Solanas, the woman famous for shooting Andy Warhol, and starting SCUM, which stands for the Society for Cutting Up Men. If we compare the very first quote presented to us in this article, to a quote from Valerie Solanas, we find they are not that different. They're juvenile, short-sighted and generally retarded. Females are literally subhuman. Every male's deep-seated, secret, most hideous fear is of being discovered to be not a female, but a male, a subhuman animal. There are of course some big differences here. We don't know the author of the alleged MRA quote, we don't know if he identifies as an MRA, we don't know how other MRAs responded to him in the forum, we don't even know if the author is male, or if he even exists. But we do know the author of the feminist quote, we know she identified as a feminist, we know that many feminists to this day still revere and support her work, and we know that both the quote and its author are real. So here I have presented evidence, as well as citations and a link. Anyone is free to go read it for themselves, they can assess it for themselves, and come to their own conclusions. Even if those conclusions are different than mine. But, none of that can be done with these quotes from the Daily Mail. Why not just name the webpage or forum? By doing so, people could go and look for themselves, even if they couldn't find these individual quotes, at very least they could find others. After all, she is making the case that this type of behavior is common, so it should be very easy to find on the webpage or forum, if we knew where it was from. The fact that the webpage or forum isn't named, suggests to me that 1. The author knows these did not come from men's rights websites or forums. Or 2. That these comments are the exception, not the rule. Or 3. These quotes have simply been made up. If I was to guess, I would say these quotes were probably taken from Reddit, and that the author didn't name the source, as she knows that it does not represent the men's rights movement. Next. Here, the diatribes range from the merely anti-feminist to the proudly woman-hating. And it's on websites like these where British-born student Elliot Rodger sought solace before he murdered 6 people in California last week. The privileged Rodger, who later turned the gun on himself, made no secret of his motivation for his crimes, hatred of women. Shortly before his horrific killing spree, the self-confessed 22-year-old virgin had posted a YouTube video, venting his rage against the women who had rejected him. She uses the term, websites like these, but once again does not name them. I have to ask again, if she is being honest, and straightforward, and presenting nothing but the truth, then why not name them, or at least one, so we can go and see for ourselves? This is not journalism, it's simple hearsay and conjecture. Not to mention, propaganda. This is a clear attempt at connecting Elliot Rodger with the MRM. But no evidence is ever given. Let's continue. He also sent a 141-page manifesto to his family and friends, detailing how he intended to go about exacting retribution on the women of the world. And it was subsequently discovered that he was an avid user of men's rights forums. Once again I have to ask, if he was an avid user of men's rights forums or websites, then name them, just name one, just one? But she doesn't, of course she doesn't, because I suspect she knows her claims are totally untrue. Next, of course, Rodger's act of carnage sent shockwaves around the world and understandably reignited the debate about America's gun culture. But his crime also reveals something equally, if not more important, that needs confronting. Namely the horrifyingly aggressive face of modern misogyny, which appears to have taken root among our young men and boys, and the fact the internet not only provides a forum for such deep-seated loathing but increases the likelihood of it spilling over into real life. Was Rodger a misogynist? No doubt about it. Is there misogyny on the internet? Absolutely. After all, there is every type of opinion on the internet. There are people who believe that Obama is a shape-shifting reptile alien, and others that believe the earth is flat. There are also numerous sites, blogs, forums etc., that spread hatred towards males. For example, Why I Hate Men Part 1, I admit it. That's right, I'm admitting it. Tell all your MRA buddies that they've been vindicated, call Rush Limbaugh, make sure to let all the other feminists know I'm blowing their cover for them. Men are obnoxious, arrogant, entitled, violent, stinky, crass, loudmouthed, stupid, craven, braggadocious, thoughtless, unreflective, abusive, selfish, lowbrow, willfully ignorant assholes. Well, most of them. You see, I don't hate all men, just almost all of them. Some of my best friends are men snarf. There are 3 or 4 that I love and consider to be fundamentally decent human beings. There are about 7 that are big enough faggots that I like hanging out with them, and there are maybe 10 that, though I'm sure they have no idea what male privilege means, I would equivocate before sending to a re-education camp if given the chance, if the camp conditions were harsh. If it was like summer camp, I'd snap up the opportunity to send them for a week or 2 of rehumanization training and craft lessons. This stuff isn't hard to find either.
I hate men. I can't abide them even now and then. Then ever marry one of them, I'd rest a virgin rather, For husbands are a boring lot and only give you bother. Of course, I'm awfully glad that mother had to marry father, but I hate men. Of all the types I've ever met within our democracy, I hate the most.
And then, of course, there are things like this. If a video was made, even in humor, of a group of males shooting a woman in the head, then celebrating, what do you think the reaction would be? We constantly are told by the media that the internet is hostile towards females, yet strangely, all hostility towards males is ignored. Why is this? Does the media view women as weaker, and in need of special protection? Or do they just see women as more important than men? If misogyny is an issue, then why not misandry? I think it's a fair question. Next. While Rodger had been reported as seeing multiple therapists, and refusing antipsychotic medication for mental illness, his disturbing hatred of women appears to be becoming more and more commonplace among young men. And here we have the one and only line about Rodger's mental health issues, dismissed as unimportant, without any real consideration. We can see that she knows there is more to the story, that it's more complex than internet-based misogyny, but discussing anything else in depth would invalidate her agenda. Next. Why? Well, there's no denying that the internet enables otherwise lone haters to find approval from each other. Clearly she must be talking about Tumblr here. Next. On these sites, Rodger discovered not just an outlet but seeming support and encouragement for his rage. A cyber-universe fueled by distorted views of women and sex, in which lonely, isolated and disaffected young men, unable to live up to equally distorted notions of manhood, end up turning lack of self-worth into an anger directed at women. We know that the internet removes social barriers. It's so much easier to express your anger, and perhaps shame, too, anonymously online. There'll always be someone out there to agree with you and egg you on. Rodger, who singled out his childhood crush, Monad Moyo, as a reason he hated women, was alone and friendless in real life. And once again she fails to name any of these sites. I do not doubt there are websites and forums out there that are anti-female, as there are sites that are anti-male. But if she were to name these sites, then her lie that they are connected to the men's rights movement would be broken. Next. But he had an online persona of someone tough-talking and dynamic, and he won fans for chilling outbursts such as, "Don't you want to punish women for rejecting you? Why settle for dreaming while other men get to experience it for real?" Is she actually claiming that Elliot Rodger had an online fan base? And once again, no citation of where the quote is from. Next. Before I even attempted to look at these vile sites, of which there are hundreds, read in some cases by handfuls of people, in others by tens of thousands, I needed a crash course in a language that was entirely new to me. Once again, if there are hundreds, then name one, just one, that is actually connected to men's rights. Of course she doesn't, because she knows her claim is false. And now she is going to educate us in the terms we are meant to use. Let me guess, incel is one of them? I am sure this is going to be good. Next. For starters, the manosphere refers to the blogs, message boards and various sites where men specifically go to vent their resentment against women and or learn how to successfully attract them or pick them up. Okay, so the manosphere is just a blanket term for the area of the internet where men talk about their shit. Some of it might be picking up girls, some of it might be anger towards females, some of it is discussions on men's rights. I am not a big gamer, but I am guessing there are large areas of the manosphere talking about gaming as well. There are probably phishing sites as well, that could be placed under the term manosphere. But of course, the author only sees the negative. This is like saying because some films are romantic comedies, then the blanket term of film only applies to romantic comedies, therefore there are no films but romantic comedies. The logic behind this is not only faulty, but pathetic. But considering her goal is to produce propaganda, we shouldn't be too surprised, should we? Next. Here, men can meet men's rights activists, MRAs, and visit dozens of pickup artists' PUA websites, where the sexually shy or unsuccessful, they call themselves incels, meaning involuntary celibates, are encouraged to pay for training videos, books and courses to help them attract women. Young men are told, for example, that they should be arrogant and talk down to the opposite sex in order to pull them. And of course, as regular as clockwork, we see the bullshit association between MRAs and pickup artists, not to mention the now infamous incel term. You know the term, guys? The one we use so often, that none of us had ever heard of it, before the media told us we use it. This is classic propaganda, painting by numbers style. Nothing too sophisticated, but it doesn't really need to be. Next. Like the latest smartphone or designer sunglasses, sex is increasingly viewed on these sites as yet another commodity there for the taking. In this warped world, young men believe themselves entitled to have sex with whomever they choose. The objectification of females is such that a girl who's up for sex with one person is necessarily up for it with everyone. The sexual liberation of women has become distorted into something terribly dangerous. Once more, we see no evidence, no links or citations, nothing to back up the claims made. Also, we have the blatant stereotype of male sexuality as always being dangerous, harmful, or sleazy. It seems we really don't have to look far for misandry, do we? Next. As Durham University criminology professor Nicole Westmoreland points out, if you didn't have the culture of expectation in the first place, then you wouldn't have the culture of rejection. It's all bound into the idea that women are sexual objects for men to do with what they want. Most men aren't thinking like that, but some certainly are. I find this logic rather bizarre, to be honest. If I apply for a job and get rejected, fail to get the job in other words, and I feel disappointed at this rejection, is it because I had the expectation that I was owed the job, or more simply, because I had the desire to have the job, because the job would have improved my life? I find it bizarre how the warped minds of these people twist things. Of course a guy is going to feel rejected if he is in fact rejected. And guess what? Women who are rejected feel rejected too. Is that because they are part of a culture of expectation, and see men as objects? Do they think they are owed a male? But of course this nonsense that the author of the article, and Professor Westmoreland, are pushing, only goes one way, doesn't it? It is only ever applied to males. What fucking bullshit. Next. On one PUA site, rushvforum.com, there are more than 718,000 posts written by more than 14,000 members. Many are British. There are various rules for joining the website, including, no girls. Their opinions or comments are not welcome here unless they post a naked picture of their body. Finally we get a citation, the first one of the article, and it's not an MRA site. Kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? If she could cite a PUA site, then why not the MRA sites she supposedly went to? And wow, a whole 14,000 members? Fuck, it's almost like an epidemic sweeping the globe. Where can we possibly hide? Let me introduce you to Krista, better known as Femitheist Divine. She has around 14,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is an equivalent number to that quoted in the Daily Mail article. so let's see what she is all about.
Hey everyone, my name is Krista, otherwise known as the Femitheist. Some of you may know me from my YouTube account, some of you may know me from my blog, and for some of you this may be the first time you're ever hearing my name at all. Regardless, I'm here to let all of you know, my allies and adversaries alike, that myself, my friends, and my followers are here to reboot the new era of feminism. I'm the overseer of this movement, and I will also be coordinating the events. This time, our movement is about more than just words, it's about actions, about making a difference and redefining the world. It is a proposed global initiative for population reduction, which will, in a few decades, lead to a worldwide male population of roughly 1 to 10% for the purpose of peace and prosperity around the world. This population reduction is the only logical long-term solution. Our plan is one of pacification and submission, and many of these short-term solutions are already underway in the Western world, so we are confident in our ambitions. We will be teaming up with members of the well-known organization radfem. This time we will not allow ourselves to be distracted or hindered by groups like the men's right movement and the mainstream feminists. They are no concern to us, and they will not stand in our way. So to all the people out there who disagree, Paul Ellum, John the other, girl writes what, their friends and followers, you can't stop us, and you will not define us, so don't even waste your time. After this week, you will all see an immense increase in the number of supporters and followers for this movement, and I personally can assure you of that. I know for a fact it will happen. We'll also be laying out more specific plans and meeting with our members and affiliated allies in the coming weeks and months. Stay tuned and be aware.
In fairness, she has since dropped the concept of reducing the male population and mass castrations. But considering her subscribers are equivalent in number to the web forum quoted by the Daily Mail, then where is the Daily Mail article about Femitheist divine? Or is reducing the male population of the world to 1 to 10% less offensive than a forum saying, "No girls"? Their opinions or comments are not welcome here unless they post a naked picture of their body. Once again I have to ask, why is misogyny wrong, but misandry acceptable? But Femitheist Divine's message isn't new. Let's once again look at Valerie Solanas and her SCUM manifesto. SCUM will kill all men who are not in the men's auxiliary of SCUM. Men in the men's auxiliary are those men who are working diligently to eliminate themselves, men who, regardless of their motives, do good, men who are playing ball with SCUM. A few examples of the men in the men's auxiliary are, men who kill men, biological scientists who are working on constructive programs, as opposed to biological warfare, journalists, writers, editors, publishers and producers who disseminate and promote ideas that will lead to the achievement of SCUM's goals, faggots who, by their shimmering, flaming example, encourage other men to demand themselves and thereby make themselves relatively inoffensive, men who consistently give things away, money, things, services, men who tell it like it is, so far not one ever has, who put women straight, who reveal the truth about themselves, who give the mindless male-females correct sentences to parrot, who tell them a woman's primary goal in life should be to squash the male sex. To aid men in this endeavor, SCUM will conduct turd sessions, at which every male present will give a speech beginning with the sentence, "I am a turd, a lowly abject turd," then proceed to list all the ways in which he is. His reward for doing so will be the opportunity to fraternize after the session for a whole, solid hour with the SCUM who will be present. Nice, clean-living male women will be invited to the sessions to help clarify any doubts and misunderstandings they may have about the male sex. Makers and promoters of sex books and movies, etc., who are hastening the day when all that will be shown on the screen will be suck and fuck, males, like the rats following the Pied Piper, will be lured by pussy to their doom, will be overcome and submerged by and will eventually drown in the passive flesh that they are. Drug pushers and advocates, who are hastening the dropping out of men. When you think about it, Valerie Solanas, and her sheer hatred of everything male, is eerily similar to Elliot Rodger's hatred towards women. Next. Commenting on the Rodger killings, someone calling himself Dr. Howard, alpha male, suggests that a short drive to sleep with a pricey hooker would have saved lives. One user, who says he prefers sex with foreign women, writes, "I'll be the first to admit that many of my bangs were hate fucks." Interestingly, she actually attributes a quote to someone here, which begs the question, why couldn't she do this with the earlier quotes attributed to the men's rights movement? Why is it that she is able to name both a website and an individual when it comes to the PUA accusations, but she doesn't do this for the MRA accusations? The answer is simple: she didn't have any evidence that Elliot Rodger was ever associated with the men's rights movement. As for the quotes, although I do not endorse them, they are hardly examples of a war on women. Yes, there are idiots on the internet who make stupid comments, deal with it. And to be honest, these ones are pretty mild compared to some I have come across in the past. Anyone remember my videos on the couple of Tumblr feminists who blamed an 8-year-old boy for being molested by an older woman? They couldn't accept that a female could be a sexual predator, as it went against their ingrained ideology. Therefore they concluded that the victim, an 8-year-old, must have been the sexual aggressor as he is male. And the fact that the older female received a 1-year jail sentence was clearly a sign of patriarchal oppression. I really don't want to stick up for the PUA guys, as I think they are a bunch of fuckwits, but if these two quotes supplied by the Daily Mail author are as bad as it gets, then she really doesn't have a case. Like I said earlier, I don't endorse their comments, but you find far worse than these on Tumblr and other places by self-confessed feminists. Next. There are also men's rights websites on which women are rated from 1 to 10. One man was semi-depressed because although he claimed to be attractive and intelligent, he said could never find a woman to sleep with whom he rated above a 7. Once again, the site is never named, as she knows it's not a MRA site. She has only supplied one citation, and that was to a PUA site. Yet nowhere does she ever give so much as a name for a men's rights website. Why? Because she knows she is full of shit. Next. The hatred of women doesn't stop there. For those young men who failed to lure the girl of their choice, there was, until this week, PUAHate.com. This was used by Rodger himself, and some members were hailing the killer as a hero for his actions. It has now been taken down, but there are many others like it out there. PUAHate.com described itself as the anti-pickup artist movement and was mainly subscribed to by men who failed to make the grade with women. Oh look, the second citation of the article, which is also the second citation associated with the pickup artists, not the men's rights movement. In her previous paragraph she mentioned a MRM site, yet failed to name it. Throughout the entire article she has mentioned men's rights websites, yet has not named a single one. Yet when it comes to PUA sites, she has no problem with citations. I think it's very safe to say, she is very aware that Elliot Rodger had no connection with the men's rights movement, or at very least, she could find no connection, and decided to make the connection regardless. Either she is knowingly deceiving her readers to further her ideology, or alternatively, she is allowing her ideology to fill in the gaps, and make conclusions without any evidence. Either way, she is misleading her readers. Either way she knows there is no connection between Rodger and the men's rights movement. Either way she has zero credibility as a journalist. As I have already taken up around 30 minutes of this video folks, I am going to skip to the end of the article. Needless to say, she has no new citations for the rest of the article. The link, as always, is below for you to go and read the article for yourself. Anyway, her closing statement is: the tragedy of last weekend's massacre cannot be undone. But neither can the twisted rantings on the web be ignored. It's not being a frustrated male virgin that will result in further killings, but a refusal to recognize the misogynist attitudes that prevail and flourish in cyberspace. Attitudes that are skewing the minds of a whole generation of young men. In debunking this article, I have shown equivalent misandry for the misogyny she has presented. If we are to conclude that there is a cyberspace war on women, then should we not also conclude there is a cyberspace war on men? If hate speech and misogyny is wrong against women, then is not hate speech and misandry against men also wrong? But of course this reporter, if we must even call her that, chooses to see only half the picture. Furthermore, I think it's safe to say, The fact that she gives 2 citations to PUA forums, but none to MRA forums, or websites speaks volumes. It would have been easy for her to name one, just one, MRM site, if in fact she had any evidence to suggest Elliot Rodger had been involved in these places. Instead of presenting evidence, she relies on speculation, and attempts to associate the MRM with the PUAs. This isn't journalism, it's ideology pure and simple.
Hello folks, my name is Mark and this is Why I Hate the World. How you all doing?
Hey Mark, let's hope you are better than the last Mark.
A 22-year-old kid named Elliot Rodger went on a homicidal rampage and shot 14 people, which 7 of them died. And there's been some shit flying around because of this, because of a Daily Kos article and some other places that identified this kid as having connections to the men's rights movement. And they basically listed that as a motive for the shooting, which may or not be accurate, but anyway, that has a lot of the men's rights people up in arms. And
you shouldn't be surprised if people get pissed off when arseholes spread lies about them.
And, you know, it's always a tragedy when this kind of thing happens, but it does give us an opportunity to discuss the effects of dangerous rhetoric from extreme political or religious movements, and
You mean, like feminism?
the kind of effect that it can have on the mentally unstable. And because I don't blame the MRA people for this, and men's rights activists, I don't blame them for this because, you know, this kid was obviously insane.
I have to say, I like Mark 2 much better than Mark 1.
So it's not really, they're not the ones that caused this, you know. But that's not to say that I support the men's rights activists, because I fucking despise those people. I despise them like hell. I've been meaning to make a video about MRA for a while, just haven't, you know, just been too lazy. But they're douchebags. That's basically what men's rights activists are. They're basically taking every, like, scummy douchebag alpha male fucking behavior and then, like, codifying it and making, like, a movement out of it.
Yes, of course, Mark, because activism against male circumcision, preventing male suicide, acknowledging male victims of domestic abuse and rape, and challenging the sentencing gap, are clear examples of scummy douchebag alpha male behavior. I don't like this Mark anymore.
You know, pretty much it. I mean, they're for the most part, they're like very immature, vile, self-centered, entitled, egotistical scumbags.
Hold on, is he talking about Tumblr feminists now?
You know, and it's because, you know, they're mainly young. Like I saw, there's a website, which I'll put the link in the little thingamajig, that did a poll on the subreddit called the Red Pill, right? Which is, you know, from the Matrix. Take the Red Pill, Meter.
Okay, let's have a look at his link. First of all, this survey covers only the users of the subreddit, not the entire men's rights movement. Secondly, there are only 600 respondents, which is a relatively small number. Thirdly, how do we know the respondents answered honestly? I imagine if you did a similar survey of Tumblr, you would get similar results, as most of the feminists on there tend to be young.
For the most part, most of the people on the subreddit were young, white males, you know, between the ages of 18 to 20. Right, college age, who actually also tended to be atheists, surprisingly. And, you know, and that's what it is. It's like basically kids who can't get laid, and then they invent this horse shit to kind of blame other people for the fact that they can't get laid.
And here we have yet another arsehole, who has no idea what he is talking about.
You know, and I'll make a full video about them later. I've been meaning to, but basically, if there's one group on this earth that I just do not give a shit about, it's men's rights activists. You know, one group of people on this earth that if they were all just to get the Ebola virus and die a horrible, death, bleeding from both eyes, I would just simply not lift a fucking finger to help them because they're scumbags, you know. And that's kind of, you know, this kid, you know, basically subscribed to that rhetoric, right? The thing is, though, that the men's rights people, they're not killers, you know. They might be dirtbags, but they don't advocate for murdering women, you know what I mean? They're basically guys that want to have sex with women, right? But they...
Yeah, I think I am about done with this guy. He seems like just another idiot who has no idea what he is talking about. You know, sometimes, it feels like I'm trapped in a bizarre version of The Walking Dead, where the world is overrun with social justice zombies. I've suddenly realized why some people become alcoholics.
They don't talk about, like, their rhetoric is not about, like, how women are evil and how they should all be killed. You know, they're basically, what they talk about is how to manipulate women into, like, getting laid. That's basically what it all comes down to. Their entire thing is like, you know, I can't get laid and women suck and I wish I could get laid. But they're not talking about, I'm going to go kill all the women, right?
Okay, so I came across this, article, on something called OneCat. It actually makes crack sound like a legitimate news source by comparison. Well folks, all I can say is, get out your full-body environmental suit, because we are going to be neck-high and bullshit with this one. The article is called, "Shut Up You Fucking Babies. Grifty Wussy Men's Rights Activist Dudes Need Your Money to Stop Ladies from Beating Them Up." In case you haven't guessed, this article is about AVFM raising money for additional security for the first International Men's Rights Conference later this month. The additional security was needed after the hotel received threats of violence and property damage towards staff, guests and conference attendees. In other words, domestic terrorism. So, instead of condemning those who made the threats, we find attempted shaming language towards the victims of those threats. Well done, feminists, well done, showing us that you believe in equality for all, right? Anyway, let's get stuck into this, as it only gets worse. You know, you'd think after one of their ilk murdered 6 people, men and ladies, just a wee bit ago and was fueled by their signature disgusting froth of misogyny and self-loathing, the men's rights activists people, and oh, do we use the term people loosely, would be laying low. But that is not how MRAs roll. Oh no, it is not. Oh look, it's only the first paragraph, and already they have made a false connection between Elliot Rodger and the MRM. Just fucking fantastic. Next. While the rest of the world is trying to throat punch them or at the bare minimum look at the ground and whistle until they pass by, the MRAs have decided to highlight their upcoming nonsense conference, about how hard it is out there for dudes, by doing some extra fundraising for increased security so big mean feminists can't beat them up. Oh look, more attempts at shaming language. You notice here, that there is no condemnation of those making threats? Kind of typical, isn't it? I mean, some troll, from across the world, leaves a nasty comment on a feminist's YouTube video channel, and suddenly it's the most important event of the century, and evidence of mass female oppression. Yet when threats of violence are made against a men's rights conference, threats that could actually be real, and at very least have cost the organizers tens of thousands of dollars, for some strange reason, those threats are funny, and the victims of those threats are somehow at fault. Welcome to the world of feminist equality. Keep it up, OneCat, you're just reinforcing the need for a men's rights movement. Next. Men's rights guys, we hate to break it to you, but pretty much everybody except you hates you, so we're not sure you can blame this one on the feminists alone. Did it ever occur to you that spilling forth hate and venom that somehow contributed to people actually dying might make a wide swath of people dislike you? Nah, probably not, because you either stunningly unself-aware people that are petitioning to have feminism classified as a terrorist group. Well, if you ever needed an argument against modern-day feminism, here it is. Firstly, we have yet another false association with Elliot Rodger, no attempt to provide evidence, of course, none. Geez, even scumbags like the Daily Kos, Policy Mike, and Cracked, created false and misleading evidence, this author isn't even attempting to do that. It's just stated, as if fact. And unfortunately, many will see it that way. And then, the moronic author brings up the petition to declare feminism a terrorist group. This is so fucking funny, because the petition she is talking about was in response to feminists starting a petition to declare the men's rights movement a terrorist group. 2 petitions started by feminists actually. Talk about shooting yourself in the foot. Wow. So funny. Next. Errors aside, that petition is both super well written and very thoughtfully argued. We are totally sold and will now renounce our misandrist ways and attend your weird sad panda dude conference that has a surprising number of Canadian speakers. Things for voice-needing men are either way better or way worse in our neighbor to the north. We're kinda hoping it is the former, because then all these weirdos could just go there. Canada has plenty of room. Hell, you could probably stuff them all in Saskatchewan or the Yukon or another of your charmingly named rural areas and never even know they were there. Now that's a fundraiser we'd gladly contribute to. Well, reading that was an unpleasant experience. If ignorance is bliss, then the author must be one very happy halfwit. But I'm not finished yet, there is still more to go, folks.
Hi, it's Ola here, and today I'm making a video about organized misogyny.
Organized misogyny? Oh, are you going to tell us how feminism reduces all females to victims that have no agency of their own?
Or as lots of people like to call it, the men's rights movement.
Yeah, I should have guessed.
Oh, the men's rights movement. What is it? A movement against feminism. Lots of people in the men's rights movement, I think it's a movement for equality. But the fact of the matter is, feminism exists as a movement created by women for equality because women are disadvantaged in society. So to create a movement for men and centered around men when they already hold power in society can really only be seen as anti-woman.
Of course, for this argument to work, reality would require that only women have issues that need addressing. And that only men have power and agency. Anyone who is intellectually honest knows this is not the case.
If you're looking for equality, feminism is what you're looking for. Feminism aims to advance the rights of women and also discuss the rights of men.
Well, isn't that interesting? She said feminism aims to advance the rights of women and discuss, not advance, but discuss the rights of men. Well, folks, you have just heard it from the proverbial horse's mouth. Feminism is not interested in equal rights between the sexes. Here we have the perfect example of toxic feminism, where all males are oppressors and all females are eternal victims, no matter the circumstances of individuals.
The funny thing is, I rarely see the men's rights movement doing anything at all apart from complaining on the internet.
Yeah. That's why we are having an international men's conference later this month. Clearly this young feminist is very well researched.
I don't see resources to trans men. I don't see discussions about racism and objectifying men of colour versus white men.
And I don't see feminism fighting specifically for the rights of dwarf, Eskimo women. Therefore, using this feminist logic, feminism must hate dwarf, Eskimo women. This really is a stupid argument, because as I have explained before in past videos, we are fighting for the rights of all men, not just some. Banning male circumcision, or reforming the court system to remove discrimination, or acknowledging male victims of domestic or sexual assault, isn't based on race or sexual preference.
I don't see any of this from the men's rights movement, which does reinforce the idea that it exists to counter feminism. Now, the reason why the men's rights movement is so bad is because it gives a platform for misogynists. In giving this platform, it legitimizes their hatred of women and turns it into a cause. By doing that, it encourages men who hate women to hate women and disguise it as something progressive.
Now I want you to listen to that clip again. Only imagine she is replacing the word women with the word men, and replace men's rights movement with feminism, and finally replace misogynists with misandrists. And then I want you to read the screen captures after.
Now, the reason why the men's rights movement is so bad is because it gives a platform for misogynists. In giving this platform, it legitimizes their hatred of women and turns it into a cause. By doing that, it encourages men who hate women to hate women and disguise it as something progressive.
If you just reverse the terms, it sounds like the perfect description of modern-day feminism.
Misogynists can hide in the men's rights movement and disguise themselves as feminists, and are protected by the actual feminist allies within the movement.
Hold on a second. At the start she claimed that the men's rights movement had no legitimate issues, and that its only goal is to hate feminists. Yet now she is claiming that there are feminist allies, and misogynists disguised as feminists, in the movement. Yeah, makes perfect sense.
We have evidence that the men's rights movement is dangerous. The ideologies it promotes has caused death. It's caused death of people.
I was wondering how long it would take her to get to Elliot Rodger. Once again, for the record, Elliot Rodger had no connection to the men's rights movement. And I dare anyone to prove me wrong.
And to be honest, I don't care if you think the shooting was caused more by lack of gun control or the mental health of the shooter. Mentally ill people are more likely to be victims of violence than perpetrators.
So are males. So therefore, using her logic, Elliot Rodger wasn't a male. Once again, an incredibly stupid argument. Just because a particular group is more likely to be victims than perpetrators, does not prevent them from being perpetrators.
If you refuse to accept that this is the issue here, you're not going to help anyone. If you're a feminist or a feminist ally within the men's rights movement, I urge you to stop using the label. It promotes misogyny, and the movement's dangerous.
Anyway, enough of this bigot, and on to another.
You guys posted a bunch of stuff at your site about these so-called men's rights groups. There are a variety of them. How big is this movement? How broad are they? And are violent posts frequently associated with them?
Well, there is a whole world known as the manosphere of these sites. There are scores and scores of the sites, if not hundreds of them. And the thing that is most prevalent, the thing that's most noticeable about them, is their often really extreme misogyny. Let me say that there are certainly some legitimate complaints, men who have had very bad problems with custody battles, with family courts, and so on. But this is a world that, in fact, has produced a number of mass killers. Some people as old as me will remember way back in 1989 when this kind of war on women really began, a particular Montreal man named Marc Lepine, who walked into an engineering class at a polytechnic university in Montreal, ordered all the men out at gunpoint, and proceeded to murder 14 women, one after another, because they were studying engineering and threatening men.
Wow, the men's rights movement has produced a number of killers? Like Marc Lepine, who wasn't a member, and Elliot Rodger, who wasn't a member. Wow, the evidence is overwhelming. Next.
Well, let me talk a little bit. This was a man, the killer, who had a great animus towards young women. He wrote in a manifesto before the killings, stating, "It's not fair. You girls have never been attracted to me. I don't know why you girls have never been attracted to me, but I will punish you all for it. It's an injustice, a crime, because I don't know what you don't see in me. I'm the perfect guy, and yet you throw yourselves at all these obnoxious men instead of me, the supreme gentleman." And he ended up calling himself the true alpha male. And for those who call themselves in the men's rights movement on the internet, what all men aspire to be.
Oh, is that right? All the members of the men's rights movement on the internet go around calling ourselves alpha males? I never knew I called myself that. I wonder, do the female members of the men's rights movement also call themselves alpha males? Is that what they aspire to be? Don't you just love journalistic hacks?
And my first question to you is, do you think that his involvement with these men's groups and men's rights groups on the internet contributed or was a cause for this violent rampage and killing?
Well, I don't necessarily think it's a cause on its own, because there's normally a number of factors that come together, and he'd obviously been planning this for a period of time. Because it was very, in terms of his planning, premeditation, the fact that he had been stalking potential students, there had been a lot of thought that went into it. But I think what that provided was a breeding ground. I think when, you know, these like-minded individuals, the haters come together and they feel that solidarity, and particularly when they feel so entitled, it becomes the breeding ground. And, you know, certainly we've seen across the world, not just in the UK or the States, but even when feminists or female journalists are talking about stories like this, the amount of, well, the tidal wave of hatred that comes at them from such groups and also from individuals. And I think some of this is very much entrenched in society, and it's bred through nuanced things, actually, this entitlement and this misogyny.
I have to ask the simple question, is it entitlement and misogyny, or is it the fact that they are pissed off at feminist lies? For example, the constant claim by hacks and halfwits that Elliot Rodger was a men's rights activist. Don't you think a blatant lie about us is enough reason to have us pissed off? The other day, I received this comment on The Propaganda of Toxic Feminism Part 3. It reads, "While I think you are generally correct in your assertions, I don't think it helps your position to refer to all women as lying cunts. Some of us, even among the original feminists, actually believe in human rights and equality for everyone." I replied, "Where exactly did I refer to all women as lying cunts? Please provide a timestamp, or retract your statement. I have referred to individuals, both male and females, in past videos as cunts. It's not a word I use slightly either, but sometimes there is no better word to describe someone." As of yet, I have received no reply. I challenge anyone to find one example of where I have ever said, all women are lying cunts, or all women are cunts, or anything of that nature. I've criticized ideologies, belief systems, and individuals, never based on gender, race, or sexual preference, but on faulty logic, misconceptions, and outright lies. And I will continue to do so. Whereas it's my opposition who seems more concerned with someone's gender, race, and sexual preference, when it comes to judging the merit of an argument. I find this allegation very serious, as I have many close women in my life, who I love and respect, not to mention the great women in this movement, who I have praised many times. As for women in general, they are capable of being good or bad, violent or non-violent, kind or cruel, understanding or indifferent, pacifists or murderers, just like men. One of my main gripes with feminism is its stereotyping of males as violent, thuggish, sexual predators, and females as saintly, innocent, helpless victims. I'm more interested in reality than replacing one set of bullshit stereotypes with another. Next. When I started this series, for material to be included, it had to meet certain criteria. 1. It had to involve Elliot Rodger. 2. It had to somehow make a connection between Rodger and the men's rights movement, either claiming he was a member, or influenced by us, or we supported his actions, or whatever. Well, I have exhausted this topic, at least for the time being. Who knows what might appear on the web or in the news tomorrow. But I was wondering, would you all like me to continue the series, by expanding it to include any propaganda, misinformation, or bullshit, spread about the men's rights movement? Not specifically about Elliot Rodger, but misinformation and lies in general? Possibly an episode a month, depending on my time, and material I have to work with, of course. That will give me time to work on other projects as well. Anyway, I'll leave it up to you guys, but if you think it's a good idea, and you come across a video or news article spreading lies and misinformation about the movement, please feel free to send me a link. And until next time, please remember, don't drink the poison Kool-Aid.
mental illness was the common factor here, then why don't we see mentally ill women killing the men who have rejected them?
I'm not gonna go down for something I don't remember doing.
A dramatic outburst in court today as a woman accused of murdering her ex-boyfriend had to be ordered just to quiet down. Good evening, I'm Steve Atkinson.
And I'm Kimberly Hunt. That outburst threw a major monkey wrench into the trial. And as 10 News reporter Chris Murphy shows us what the woman's brother said on the stand could prove even more damaging.
For Vegas Bray, Wednesday's preliminary hearing was a 1-2 punch. First, there was her outburst.
I'm not gonna go down for something I don't remember doing. I'm not going down for a murder that didn't even happen. I didn't know. I'm not going down for something I don't remember doing. And if people can't tell the story straight, this is probably why I'm here in the first place.
Bray was reacting to testimony. She faces 50 years to life if convicted of shooting and killing her ex-boyfriend, Victor Saucedo, last year. Prosecutors say the 24-year-old had stalked and harassed Saucedo after they broke up in 2011, even throwing paint on his front door. They'll try to prove her obsession turned deadly on October 16th, when they claim she shot him 6 times, then reloaded and shot him 3 more times. The second blow to her case on Wednesday came from her own brother. He testified Bray confessed to him over the phone the day of the murder.
I called her again, and she picked up, and she told me what had happened.
What'd she tell you?
And she killed her boyfriend.
What words did she use?
Just like that. She's like, I shot him.
Even with that testimony, the case is now on hold.
Because I found out that he did cheat on me.
After Bray's outburst, the judge postponed the preliminary hearing until June so Bray could undergo a psychiatric evaluation to determine whether she's mentally fit to stand trial. In Chula Vista, Chris Murphy, 10 News.
If mental illness was the common factor here, then why don't we see mentally ill women killing the men who have rejected them?
Police have released CCTV images showing pregnant mother Fiona Anderson wandering the streets clutching a teddy bear moments before jumping to her death after stabbing her boyfriend and killing 3 of their children.
I found it this morning when we got a phone call saying that somebody's committed suicide, and I had a feeling who it was. So,
yeah. Did you have any thoughts that something like this might happen?
No, I did not. No.
And had Fiona seemed troubled in any way or worried?
No, she hadn't. No.
The 23-year-old mother is believed to have stabbed her boyfriend Craig McClelland after he allegedly dumped her for another woman. Soon after the attack, she was captured on this CCTV, wandering the streets of Lowestoft carrying a teddy bear. A few minutes later, she fell 40 feet to her death from a multi-storey car park. Police soon found the bodies of her children, Lavina, Addie and Caden, at their ground floor flat. Details of how the children died have not been released. Fiona's family have released a statement saying their daughter suffered from a mental health illness and was under too much pressure. Suffolk police are treating the children's deaths as suspicious.
If mental illness was the common factor here, then why don't we see mentally ill women killing the men who have rejected them?
Straight out to Amy Murphy, reporter KNXV on the ground in Phoenix, Arizona. You recently did a one-on-one interview with Jodi Arias. First of all, what is the buzz in Phoenix on this new defense tactic?
Well, Jane, those of us who actually got to interview her really aren't surprised because that was the feeling that many of us came away with, that, that she is a very mentally ill person. As for this tactic, I asked her, one of the questions I asked her, I said, what you did to Travis Alexander, most people view as insane. Why didn't your defense team try to do an insanity plea? And she said she didn't know. This seems like a last-ditch effort, perhaps.
If mental illness was the common factor here, then why don't we see mentally ill women killing the men who have rejected them? Oh no, I know, it's because of male entitlement and misogyny.